Hey guys, this is AHOY tutorial on the training videos about gunnery and aiming. So this is not going to be a real gameplay at all. It's going to be mostly theory and my point of view, and it will be about mostly starting with the cannons, type of the cannons, and carronades. How to equip your ship for open world, for port battles, for hunting, for different things. So let's start with the most common thing is using 4-pounders. Uh, this is a very good thing, and you can mix the strategy a lot in different situations. 4-pounders are basically, there is one fact: all long cannons have the same range. This does not apply to the carronades and mediums, as far as I know, but all longs have the same range. So if we take more heavy long cannons for the front or back, basically you use them mostly for chaining during chase or escaping. So the most important thing is reload. You see here, I've got 4-pounders at the front, I've got 6-pounders for some reason at the back. Okay, 6-pounders because that's the minimum on the back. But for most ships you can equip it with 4-pounders. Sometimes also you can use it on the sides. It's a strategy that I was using a lot and it works, but it's hard. When you only chain and grape, you don't sink enemy ships. You chain, grape, and board. But for most of the ships, frigates during the chase, open world fights, and basically where you want to chain enemy, you should use 4-pounders longs at the front and back, if it's possible. Here I can use only 6-pounders, and you can use also carronades. You can see on the Lotion I can equip it with 68-pounders. There we go. Base damage 81, reload 50 seconds. They wait a lot, but actually if I switch like at this 4-pounder, look at my maximum speed, 10.13. I put carronade 60-pounders, it's 10.11. So the difference is very small when it comes to the front and back. But anyway, when you want to use carronades at the front back, it's very good for small battles, I would say, when the enemies do not run, they fight, and port battles as well. Port battles not always, but often. If you hit with the bow when you have 68-pounders the stern of the enemy ship, like first rate especially, or even like a Agamemnon's, they have big stern, you can kill like 20 or 50 crew with 2 bows or 4. The Ocean has 4 bow and stern chasers. So for 68-pounders hitting the stern of the enemy ship, that kills a lot of crew, kills rudder, and destroys cannons. But then, when the enemy ship is out of the range, or when you're trying to escape from the enemy, running away using your stern chasers, you might regret putting carronades because the range is awful, especially the range of the chains, the effective range. So that's something you should keep in mind. You can't have everything, that's the decision you have to make. This is the Ocean for open world. It's teak planking Norfolk Carpenter bonus. So I'm using longs, and now let's go to the mediums and longs, the difference. Of course the biggest difference is the range. Mediums have much shorter range. The balls go in a bigger arc. Longs have a very small arc, so they're much more accurate, but the dispersion on the mediums, you see maximum horizontal dispersion and vertical. Maximum horizontal dispersion is 5 meters per 100 meters, and vertical is 13 meters. On the longs, you see it's 4 meters and 12. So longs have much better accuracy and bigger range, but the substantial difference is that mediums, they reload faster, they have more base damage, and they have less penetration. Let's compare, for example, I'll have to put 42 pounders longs. Do I have them? No, I don't. Let me get them from the shop. 42 pounders longs. Let me take them to compare them to the 42 pounders mediums. Reload 65 seconds and 71 seconds. So it's 6 seconds difference. Not a very huge difference, but when you want your decks to reload, the middle deck goes 63 seconds. This one goes 65 seconds. It's almost the same. So the lower deck with middle deck reloads almost at the same time. That's very often important during fights. But then you look at the penetration. At 50 meters, mediums have 128. So more or less, at the range of the 50 meters, you will penetrate anything. The ship's side structure thickness goes up to 80, I think. I think that on the first rates go up to 80 if it's the live oak, stiffness, strong hull with extra planking, stuff like that. Should be about 80. Nah, not 80, even more, maybe 87, 88, 89. So with the lower deck, even mediums, you might be able to penetrate at the range of 250 meters, 500, depending on how far you can shoot. But when it comes to the middle deck, upper deck, these lose penetration a lot. Even when you compare here, it goes 140, 128. You have at the 1000 meters, you have with the longs 42 pounders penetration of 81, and here you have just 68. You won't penetrate any first rate at the range of the 1000 meters, considering that you would be able to shoot with mediums 1000 meters. I'm not sure what's the range of the mediums, but the difference between mediums and longs is huge in the range. So when I'm using mediums, I'm using them sometimes for like a memos, or basically for freights or oceans first rates on the lower deck, to reduce the reload time, make it comparable between lower and middle deck, maybe get some extra base damage. Here you see it's 50, here it's 48, so just 2, but then you have more cannons, so the effect is, you might notice the difference. Ships equipped fully with mediums. If you are very desperate at doing this, you might be doing this just for missions. Only for missions. Against players on the mediums, that's a suicide. Unless you're playing against some newbies. And I've seen lots of newbies using only mediums, running ship fully equipped with mediums. That was just not working for them. Then we go to the carronades. On the poor battleships, you might be able to equip carronades at the top deck, 4th rates, 1st rates, top deck. On the lower decks you cannot equip carronades. So here you see I'm using 9 pounders on the top deck. 9 pounders are pretty weak, they won't be able to penetrate big ships. The only thing that you will be good for is chaining, graping, and maybe with double charge, or when the enemy ship is very weak, very low armor. The question is then why I'm using 9 pounders at the top deck on ocean if it won't help much in the real combat. Well, the answer is this is open world ocean, it's not the one for port battles. So I'm using more chains, I'm using more grapes. In a port battle I'm going more with bolts, double charge, double shot. And brawling, fighting side to side. I don't have to chase enemy much because it's a real brawl, real fight. Then I would definitely switch the 9 pounders longs with I can put their 42 pounders. Let's compare. When I want to compare, the difference is huge. Of course the carronades are only effective, the reload time is almost the same, base damage huge difference, 50, 34. Reload time is almost the same, and let's remember carronades are only effective in the close range, very close range. Farther than about 100 meters, 50, 100, they might start bouncing balls. But when you are side to side with enemy ship, carronades are literally destroying enemy ship. Then we're talking now mostly about the poor battleships. But the question is about also frigates, like let's say Santa Cecilia. There we have one Santa Cecilia. I'm using on this one longs. And a question. Some players dislike carronades because they bounce over distance. It's hard to chain enemy with carronades. The question is, should I use it or not? Well, when playing solo against other players with cannons or carronades in frigates, when I want to fight a frigate, I will go with longs. When I want to fight a big ship, I would go with carronades. Carronades are killing much more crew on the stern rakes, a lot. They are just devastating. Carronades also require less crew, probably reload faster, depending on the ship, and that's about it. And they can also penetrate hull of the bigger ships if for some reason I'm crazy enough to go side by side with a third rate or first rate. Maybe Bellepool. Bellepool is a low profile ship that can hug enemy ship, and being under the cannons of the enemy ship, just destroying the armor of it. That's one of the common strategies, but Santa Cecilia is a bit too big. It will take damage from the lower deck. But then, when I want to hunt Bellona's, Bucks, first rates, maybe even fourth rates, yeah, fourth rates as well including, I will definitely go with carronades, because carronades, they might be better for demasting in a close range. If you look at, I can go with 5th class carronades on this one. Fifth one will be 24 pounders, they're right here. Penetration on 50 meters is 104. Here on 50 meters penetration is also 104, but then I have the top deck, penetration 98. So the top deck has much less penetration than these carronades, and I can use 5th class carronades on the lower and top deck. That's one of the things that I wanted to say. So basically using carronades on the frigates for ships of the line, considering also Agamemnons, Ingermanlands, Weapons, and third rates, second rates, first rates. When I also would like to use carronades, maybe sometimes when fighting bigger ships. But then you risk, because when you have carronades, enemy has longs, enemy keeps distance from you, and he keeps chaining you, you can do nothing. When you're down your sails by a lot, you can just get close, demast you, destroy the stern rake. But that's when the enemy has carronades and you have longs, you can do the same against him. But when both ships have carronades, it gets into an intensive fight. Okay, I think that's enough from the theory about mediums, longs, and carronades. You can see I'm using 4 pounders at the front and back. By the way, it also gives me less crew needed for the